The Socialist Equality Party is standing in the New South Wales election to put forward a fighting program for the working class. We tell the truth that the official election campaign will resolve nothing for workers. Labor, Liberal, the Greens, these are parties of big business and the banks. Their program is war, austerity and inequality.
Cost of living is quite high, with inflation going up. Just, little things like even paying rent, mortgage, groceries, like everything's gone up. And it's affecting everyone, I just feel for people just trying to, get by on the bare minimum. So it's something that definitely needs to be addressed just to ease or alleviate that sort of pressure.
Prices for just everything is rising and young people are not going to be able to tend to their own needs.
The cost of living has gone high and the salaries are not increasing as if you see the inflation percentage. So it is impacting directly because everything is related to the financials.
Now governments say that this is an automatic process, the workings of the economy, but that's a complete fraud. What's being imposed is a class agenda, an agenda in the interests of the banks, big business, directed against the working class.
Rent has increased in Sydney by 30%, while real wages have gone back by 4.5%. But there is a layer within society that is making money. The billionaires have increased their wealth by 66% in the last 3 years alone.
The people of Australia, the middle and lower class working, are losing money which they deserve, so people and banks can enjoy their lives, and it's not fair.
The working class are paying and giving money to the government, and the government are giving it to the richer people. So the richer people are going to get more richer, or get richer, and the people who are working have to work harder, longer, just to support that.
We have here in Parramatta representatives of the Labor Party, of the trade unions. They claim that this state of affairs is solely the result of New South Wales Liberal Premier Dominic Perrottet. But that's a fraud. The attack on the working class is completely bipartisan and Labor is at the very forefront of it.
I'm not really a big fan of the Labor Party just because I feel like just from the past experiences they haven't been able to deliver their promises. And I think that's a huge issue with the younger generation, particularly millennials and Gen X, not having that faith to be able to lean on the major parties. And I think that's why a lot of us are more sort of leaning towards the other parties, the ones that will pretty much speak on what's important to us.
New South Wales Labor leader Chris Minns is posturing on the cost of living, but what's his actual policy? He said that Labor opposes any pay increases in line with inflation. Even nominal wage rises have to be paid for through productivity increases and savings. That is, intensified exploitation and further cuts to social services.
I work, everyone I know works, and if people aren't getting a decision of where their money should really go, it's just really, really unfair. And maybe the government aren't making the right choices.
We are short of nurses as I'm from the health background. I'm working with the healthcare sector. So yes, I think the government should think wisely and should give some budget for the healthcare because healthcare is basically the backbone of any country.
Now, everywhere workers want to fight, there is growing opposition. There's a demand that pay increase, that services be improved. The critical issue is how that can be fought for. Who are workers' friends and who are their enemies? The Socialist Equality Party insists that not a single step forward can be taken without a political struggle against the Labor Party and the trade union officialdom. What the Socialist Equality Party is putting forward is the need for workers to form their own organisations of struggle, independent rank and file committees that will organise a political and industrial counter-offensive. Such committees, rank and file committees, can unite workers across industries, entire sectors, break the isolation operations of the trade unions and prevent further sellouts. They can organise strikes, protests and other action to win workers' demands. But the critical issue is that workers require a new political perspective. The social crisis is intimately connected to the question of war. Why do we have massive inflation? Well, in part because the US and NATO have launched a proxy war against Russia in Ukraine. Workers are being made to pay for this in the form of the soaring prices, as well as the billions of dollars that are being handed to the military, to the armed forces, to the war machine.
Any war is not acceptable and is not, it doesn't give any benefit out of it. And if you talk about the war of Ukraine, it is basically directly or indirectly every human being is suffering from that. So if we talk about like in Australia also the inflation has going high and everything is like, it's basically impacting all the human being.
It will be detrimental for the future of the world if one country exercises their power over the other countries. When you look at it from the outside view, we're just a puppet for America.
It's not too good. They're going to be taking lots of lives away from younger children, putting the youth's lives at risk. So me and my mate here over here, might be going to war if it happens. That's not the best thing, and it's just taking away people's rights.
Labor and the coalition have already dedicated more than $500 billion to war over the next decade. The war in the Ukraine has nothing to do with the interests of the Ukrainian workers. The war is above all driven by the imperialist interests of the United States and its NATO allies. It seeks not in any way to ameliorate the social conditions that face the Ukrainian workers, but to in fact militarily dismember Russia and carve it up as a semi-colony of the United States as part of its broader plans for war against China. So the only genuine opposition to war must come from a socialist perspective, the uniting of the Ukrainian and Russian working class with the international working class against their own governments at home. The Socialist Equality Party, of which I am the candidate in the upcoming New South Wales elections for Bankstown, is the only party in this election that is fighting for the freedom of Julian Assange. He is imprisoned in Belmarsh in the UK for the crime of exposing the criminal activities of US imperialism in Iraq and Afghanistan. Every worker should come to the defence of Assange because he personifies the basic democratic right of freedom of speech and revealed the horrors of US imperialism.
He was probably one of the, most well-known whistleblowers, and I feel like what he told the public needed to know, because we need to know what our governments are up to. And not only that, but with all of that, innocent people got killed, particularly in places like the Middle East, for example, and just, with Western media having their own agenda on the Middle East, that's huge factors. And with Julian Assange, I stand for him. I'm all for it, and I think he did the public justice, yeah.
The Socialist Equality Party fights for the immediate freedom of Julian Assange and all other political prisoners. But we insist that this will not be achieved through appeals to the Biden administration, which is seeking Assange's extradition, or appeals to the Albanese Labor government, which has abandoned Assange despite the fact that he's an Australian citizen and a persecuted journalist. Labor won't defend Assange because it is fully committed to the US alliance and to US wars and military preparations around the world. While Albanese is silent on Assange, he's meeting virtually every week with US officials and their allies to prepare for new and even greater crimes in the confrontations with China and with Russia. So we say we need to fight to free Julian Assange, the WikiLeaks publisher, as part of the struggle to build an international anti-war movement of the working class that will end war and its source, the capitalist system.
Authorised by Cheryl Crisp for the Socialist Equality Party, Sydney.